Welcome back to the Housing Update. I am here with
Cheryl Stokes, New American Funding.
And Mary Bartos Group of Premier Plus. Let's get into it, Cheryl, because there's been a lot of stuff in the news lately.
A lot.
Right. And the national news is talking about mortgage, affordability, equity, you name it. But what does Logan from Housing Wire say?
Well, Logan says the unsung hero of the housing market in 2025 has been the improvement in mortgage spreads, because without the spreads improving as much as they have, mortgage rates would not have gotten near 6% this year.
Yeah. Right. And let's go back and revisit that, why that is, because they trend with the Treasury.
They do. Right? They do. And we're getting closer to the target. So that helps us with our rates.
That's right. And, honestly, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but we're lower than a 40-year average.
We are. Right? We are. The 40-year average is 7%.
Yeah.
So our rates are lower than that. We're typically in the 6s, depending on the client.
Yeah.
And that has spurred some increased interest in the market.
Absolutely. So this is something I thought was really interesting that Redfin put out, Cheryl, because it's talking about people selling their home. Mm-hmm. And we're only 28 out of 1,000. So 2.8% of U.S. homes have sold in 2025. Now, that's not the number of years you're in the home. That's the lowest number of homes, right, that have sold.
Switched. That's low.
That's right. And if you look back, in 23, 24, and 25, it edged down. But we've been as much as 44%.
Right.
In 21. 20 was an odd year, but, we were averaging what? Well, I don't know about average, but we went between 33.9% in 12 to a high of 42.1 before COVID years.
Yep. And I like to say always that, 2018, 2019 were good average years, and those both are in the 40s.
Right. And people have only traded 27.7%. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what does Jerome Powell's talking about? Because a week or so ago, he was talking about, he's the chair of the Fed Reserve.
Yep.
What was he talking about?
So he said a further reduction in the policy rate at the December meeting is not a foregone conclusion. Far from it. There were strongly different views today, and the takeaway from that is that we haven't made a decision about December. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. There's competing factors, and that's why we don't know.
So the rates may go down, they may not. Who knows?
Correct.
And
remember, if their rates go down, it doesn't mean mortgage rates go down.
Absolutely. You've taught me that.
They can go up.
This is a very wise woman.
Okay, they can still go up.
Nice. But there's other ways why, and we can talk about these, but why we're over at historically low, homes aren't turning over at historically low rates. And that is for these three reasons.
Yep. So first one, affordability challenges have kept many buyers on the sidelines. Home prices near record highs.
Yep.
Borrowing costs remain elevated, causing the number of sellers to far outweigh the number of buyers. And that's absolutely true.
Totally.
The second point is sellers are unwilling to give up their low mortgage rates. More than 70% of mortgaged U.S. homeowners have a rate below 5%, well below the current rate of 6.17. While share of mortgages above 6% is at a 10-year high, many homeowners are still rate locked and unwilling to sell at that juicy 3.5%.
I got one of those, Cheryl. But I have been in my house for a long time, and I remortgaged or refinanced. So what about the third one? Because this is true.
This is absolutely true. Economic uncertainty has made buyers cautious. Concerns about job security, inflation, broader instability caused many would-be movers to delay major purchases, further slowing the pace of transactions. And we talked about that last month. There's a lot of uncertainty out there in the market, and people are thinking twice.
Exactly. So with that said, again, these are national numbers, not necessarily our market. It's starting to move again. And what is Odetta Cushy from First American saying?
Well, Odetta says after a prolonged slump, the existing home market is showing signs of recovery.
Which is fantastic.
Yep.
We love hearing that nationwide. It does affect us as well. And 3 reasons why the housing market is on the road to recovery.
Well, mortgage rates have been decreasing for most of the year, and they're lower than they have been in the last couple of years. That's absolutely true.
Right.
As the lock-in effect eases, more homeowners are selling and inventory is rising back to normal levels. I think that depends on where you are.
Right.
Lower rates and more homes to choose from are leading more buyers into the market.
Yeah. And, we have a mix of second home buyers as well as, first time, people that are that live here full time. And we kind of see different things with different groups.
Yeah.
Right.
It's very dependent on the buyer.
That's right. Now, this is from January about mortgage rates that they're trending down. I mean, at the high, we were at what, Cheryl, 7?
Well, that's showing just over 7%. I think they might have been a little bit higher than that in January, but they're trending downward. They're fluctuating as rates will do up and down throughout the year, but they are at the lowest point they've been in a year.
Well, and that's fantastic. We love hearing that.
Yes.
So what's near and dear to your heart is affordability.
Yes, I talk about it all the time. Home affordability hits its best level in more than 2.5 years in September, driven by easing rates and a pullback in prices. It's a buyer's market. The rates have come down. Prices have come down. It's kind of the melding of all worlds. So it's a good time to buy.
It's a great time to buy. And then you look at, if you're getting a mortgage, and an average or a median, look at how much mortgages have come down since just May.
Right.
Right.
And that's why we are always talking about the rates and affordability, because look at the difference in the average median, over $300 a month in a half a year. And that can make or break whether someone qualifies or not.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that's very cool is that wages are climbing at a faster pace. When you look at the average wages index trend line that came from 2006 to currently, and look at how much over that index we are right now.
Right. And so obviously higher wages means more affordability.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which is the trifecta in whether someone buys a house.
Right.
Right.
Higher wages, lower rates, lower house price.
Oh, well, love all those. So ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, this is an interesting, point that they published.
Yep. So it says as of mid-September with 30-year rates at 6.26, it required 30% of the median household income to make the monthly principal and interest payment on the average priced home.
Okay.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of words.
Down from more than 32% early this summer and a peak of more than 35% in late 2023. And basically, that's just talking about the affordability. The percent of your income that you're spending on a home is going down from where it was 2 years ago.
Which is fabulous.
Right. Which is what we want.
Exactly. And then you've got, Odetta Cushy again. What's she saying?
House buying power in September, the amount of home one can afford based on the median household income and the prevailing 30-year fixed rate, mortgage rate, reached its highest level since early 2022. And that's correct. If wages go up, you have more buying power.
Wages up, interest rates down. It's a magic number that we love. So Redfin, what is Chen saying about what's happening right now?
Well, Chen is saying more homeowners are deciding it's worth moving, even if it means giving up a lower mortgage rate. And you and I talk about this every time.
Right.
Life doesn't stand still. It's always a time to buy or sell because people get new jobs, grow their families, they downsize, or simply want to live in a different neighborhood. Yeah. These needs are starting to outweigh the financial benefit of clinging to a bottom mortgage rate. I think people are starting to realize that those 3% rates were an anomaly.
Yeah, they were.
And you could be waiting a long time and miss out on a great opportunity because you're hanging on to that rate.
Once in a lifetime.
Right.
Once in a lifetime. So with that said, it's interesting because we saw that the share of mortgage rates above 6%, with this, we're in a 10-year high. We're now at almost 20% of people that have a mortgage have a rate of over 6%.
Right. So as people are making that decision to go ahead and move, rates are in the sixes. So having a rate at or around or slightly above 6%. That average is moving up, but that's also, again, the average rate in over 40 years is 7%. So that's still below the 40-year average.
Great.
It's down from last year, which makes it a little more affordable to do. So the fact that it's climbing just indicates that people are making that decision.
Yeah. And it's an okay decision.
It's an okay decision because you can find a way to make it work.
That's right. And we talk about this. We're not going to talk about this time, but next time we'll talk about concessions and some other ways to really get that affordability where you want it to be. Okay, so I'll talk about continuing nationwide. The inventory continues to grow. And you'll see that, as we go down to the next slide and it shows 27, 28, 2019. We've talked about that a lot, Cheryl. Mm-hmm. Those were normal years of a normal market. We weren't in a recession or the Great Recession or whatever we're calling those years. Yep. We weren't in COVID. Nationwide, there was about, average of 1.2 million, maybe a little bit more. Yep. We're at 1.1 nationwide.
Right.
That's not bad.
Right. So we're getting closer to normal.
Right. But it's grown since 2021 at its lowest, which was 565,000.
Right.
Right. For October. Again, this is you. Talk what's Joel at NBA saying.
Purchase applications were down over the week, but remained 20% higher than a year ago. So purchase applications, we actually get a report on a weekly basis, and they go down and up based on the rates.
Yeah.
But they might be down on a week where they've ticked up slightly, but overall, applications are higher. There's more business. There are more people buying.
Love that. Love that. So if you get the drift here, we're kind of telling you it's okay to buy.
It's okay to buy.
It's okay to buy. And not because we want you to buy with us, because maybe you buy with somebody else. But it's okay. Like if you look at what the analysts are saying, this is a forecast as of November 4th. Home sales are expected to rise in 2026 kind of significantly. Yep. They're anticipating 2025 is 4.8 million homes nationwide.
Right.
And look, they're saying it's going to be 5.2 and some change.
Yeah.
So there'll be more homes that are sold. And again, it's buyer's market. Right. So it's a great time to jump in.
It's a great time to go ahead and start.
And, again, nationwide homes for sale have increased in 2025. And you kind of zoom that up just for 2025 from 829,000 to 1.1 million.
Yeah. People are deciding that now's the time. They've waited long enough, and you could only wait so long. You have to live your life.
Right. Sellers are ready to put their homes on the market. Right. Now, you're looking this is nationwide data, at between 2016 and 2025, that the median days on market for October in each one of these years has crept up, but still, Cheryl, we're still under what it was in 1918 and 17.
Right. And those are the years that I said were normal years, I kind of feel like. And look, we're just below those normal years. So
yeah, very much. Very, very, very good point. I love talking about these next two slides before we get into the local market, because I like to, because I get, Cheryl, I'm sure you do, I don't want to buy too high. I'm afraid the market's going to, drop. It's kind of a little bit like Chicken Little and the sky is going to fall. And, none of us have a crystal ball, but the analysts that are out here, so there are, 7 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, I miscounted, have come in with their forecast for 2026. The lowest being MBA, minus 0.3, which is nominally minus in the negative, and NAR being the most bullish at 4%. The average of all those is 1.7%. So we talked about this before. It's a positive number. It's not a negative number.
Right. And for all the people who are still talking about the housing market crashing again, there are no real predictors of a decline in home value.
No. And honestly, in our market, we haven't really seen a decline in the value.
Well, we haven't. And we need to remember the real factor that makes it unlikely is at that point in time, there were people who owed 150% of their home value.
Right.
Now, 40% of homeowners own their homes outright.
Right.
And another 40% have, on average, 40% equity. So we're not upside down. in the market.
And that's a great point because there were a lot of foreclosures that happened in 7, 8,
They were
9.
upside down, so people walked away. Now, someone's not going to walk away from a home they own outright, and they're not going to walk away from 40% of equity.
No. And in any market, there are foreclosures.
Always.
But let's face it, we're not setting those up.
We're not anywhere close. And just to touch on that very quickly, you'll see in the news that foreclosure rates are up.
Right.
But let's remember, they are up from the COVID years when everything was put on hold, but they are still not as high as they were pre-COVID.
See, I love that you point that out because the news is meant to terrify and not clarify. And quite honestly, it's a little bit much when they say those things because I don't know was it last month that the analysts were saying 75% of people make their purchases on homes a decision based on what they're hearing in the news.
Right. And if you hear foreclosures are up, you're like, well, the market's going to tank, so I don't want to buy right now. I want to wait. Maybe I want to buy at a low. It's not going to happen.
Right.
That is an increasing number, but you have to look at the whole picture.
Agreed. So our last slide before we go into local market, honestly, Cheryl, this is near and dear your heart. Mm-hmm. This is if I buy a home for $400,000 now, based on what the analysts are talking about predictions, how much equity am I going to have in that in 5 years?
Right. And equity is everything. We talk about it. We want the house to be affordable. We want to get in at a good rate. But what we want to build, I say it all the time, is generational wealth through ownership, which is part of the equity building. And you build equity in two ways, the growth of the home value and through your mortgage. It's like a little savings account you're putting into every month. And are you building equity? And this is the most important thing about home ownership.
I love that. This came out of based on the price appreciation projected by Home Price Expectation Survey. 5 years, that's pretty significant, 61,000. Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. That appreciation, what's so great about it is you're doing that just by making your payment. Maybe you don't have the opportunity to save money every month, but in reality, you are through your home.
Yeah, it's a great point. All right, let's talk about the local market, Cheryl. So sales year to date. So these are January to the most recent numbers I had, which was the end of October. And if you look at this, the sales, because it's the highest number, is Naples, overall Naples market. The last 2 years have been pretty steady. Mm-hmm. We're down a little bit from 23, but not much from 24, 25. I think the months may have shifted on when people bought, because maybe not as many as in February and March as would be expected, at least with our team. We got a high in July and October, but check that out. Similarly in each of the other markets, if you look at the red, which is the next highest one is Fort Myers, not much of a change, right? So, actually Marco is more in 25 than it was in 23. Now it's a baby market, so the numbers aren't as big, but that speaks to a lot that the sales are there.
And not only are they there, but they're leveling off. There's not a big decline.
No.
There's not a crazy increase, which drives the market in a different way. They're leveling off to normal.
I love that. Homes for sale have increased, though, and just ours are more than what the national numbers are. Because when you look at Naples, which is that, aqua-ish blue color, in 23, there were only 3,106 homes for sale in the month of October. And look at 2025, there's 6,300. Again, all of them have increased kind of, on trend up.
Yep.
And that just tells us it's a buyer's market.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. That just means it's a buyer's market. Take advantage of it now.
Right.
Because it's a cycle. It's going to change.
That's right. And right now, Cheryl, I did this study about in September, I might have mentioned it last month, 53% of homes in our market haven't sold. That's 1 out of 2 that have sold, roughly.
So you might have some motivated sellers.
And maybe not. Maybe they're not. But you may find one.
Right.
And with a motivated, that means a good price.
Yes.
Last but not least, I put days on market average because I like people to understand what's going on, Cheryl, because we're not in New Jersey or some of the, as we call them, the snow states where things were going still pretty fast.
Yep.
It's taking a bit of time for a well-priced home to sell.
Yeah.
Now, if you're, not well-priced, then you're going to sit longer, unfortunately. And then if you price too high to begin with, you may sit even longer and get less than what you wanted. But you should talk to an agent about that to really understand and talk about that pricing strategy. Last, before we really talk about this, I always like to see average showings per a pending. And you can see year over year, they're all down, meaning it takes more showings to get to a pending. But the highest here is 13.7 showings on Marco Island, the lowest being Fort Myers at 8.7. My friends, if you're having showings, if you're selling your home in any market in the U.S. and you're having showings, understand this number, because if you don't have it sold by that, then you got a pricing issue or you have a marketing issue, one of the two. I mean, they go kind of hand in hand, but price is predominant. Cheryl, I ask you this all the time. Is it time to move?
Yes. And I say that all the time, just that way. If it's right for you from a family perspective, if it's right for you from a financial perspective, if it's just time, you're relocating, it's always time to move.
Yeah.
Or sell, buy or sell based on your family criteria. And there's always a way to make the market work for you.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with Cheryl more. When I look at my current and past clients this year that really wanted to sell, there were some deaths. There was some relocations because, they wanted to move closer to kids. There were some people that, were elderly that not just wanted to move closer to kids, but they needed to get into some assisted living.
Right.
Those kind of things. All of those things happen. Or first-time home buyers, Cheryl, they're sick of paying somebody else's mortgage.
Exactly. There's always some criteria that initiates a move, whether buying or selling, and we can always work that out for someone.
Absolutely. So until next time, I'm Mary Bartos with the Bartos Group of Premier Plus.
I'm Cheryl Stokes with New American Funding.
We got to see you on the next housing market update. My friends, it's time to move.